It's 6:30, so we're going to call the meeting to order. So first we will have roll call, please.
Ms. Nyman?
Here.
Ms. McWhorter? Mr. Updegrove?
Here.
Mr. Hemingway?
Here.
Ms. Deeroff?
Here.
Mrs. Hogan?
Here.
Mrs. Denon?
Here.
Mr. Brophy?
Here.
Mr. Poos?
Here.
Okay, now we will start with a Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the November 12th Finance and Facilities meeting. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Mr. Foos, second. Mr. Updegrove, are there any questions or comments about the minutes from the November 12th meeting? Okay, seeing none. Are we gonna be doing roll call votes, or are we just gonna do? We're not changing that, are we? Okay, just a voice vote. All those in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. Next item on the agenda is public comment period. Is there anyone wishing to speak at this time? The list. Oh, list is back there. Mm-hmm. Great. Okay, no one at this time. Our next two items, we have two items to discuss tonight. One is the Middle School West additions and renovations change order, and the next is the Food Service Consortium. So I think I'm just going to turn that over to Mrs. Pitts to give us a discussion about both of those items.
Okay, so the first item is a change order, and it's for the Middle School West project, and Mr. Drescher is working toward getting that project closed as well. And for Matchline Mechanical, they are all done with their work. There was only one item that was in their original bid that hasn't been done, and that was for some training on the Honeywell HVAC equipment that they provided. There is training at multiple sites throughout the U.S. However, each site only has training once a year. So the next training at the closest facility is in New Jersey, and that would not be until next spring. So we didn't want to hold up the contract just for training. So we're presenting this change order, which is on the agenda for our meeting at 7 o'clock, which is a reduction of $5,400, and that is for two people to get trained. We will use that credit to train our two employees who will be using that equipment, and it is $2,700 for each of them, so it would be a wash. We would have had to pay mileage for them to travel back and forth regardless of whether we paid that training or whether the contractor paid that training. So that's why we're presenting this change order. I don't know if anybody has any questions about that. Yes, ma'am?
That price will not go up till the spring.
I hope not. That's something we could probably check on, but it shouldn't. So I don't know if they've got that enrolled, but we can check on that. Unfortunately, we have that on the agenda for tonight. So it shouldn't, but I don't know that for 100%. Okay.
Okay. So if there's no other questions, if I can just kind of have a thumbs up to see if who's in favor of moving it to the consent. Well, it's going to be on the agenda for the meeting tonight.
It is. It's
Okay.
in the consent.
It's in the consent agenda. So let's do it this way. Is there anybody opposed to moving it to having it on the consent agenda for tonight? If you're opposed, just raise your hand. Nope. Okay. So that is unanimous consent to move that forward, and we will move to the next item, which is the Food Service Consortium.
So we have, in the past, purchased our food service food through the Berks County Intermediate Unit Food Service Consortium. However, quite a few school districts in the county have left the consortium, and BCIU has determined that the consortium is no longer viable. We did receive notification last week, and they gave us a couple options in a letter, and one of those was Cathco, and the other one was Tri-State. So Mrs. Clinton in the food service department did investigate both of those options, and we recommend the Cathco option. It is through the Lancaster Lebanon IU. And there are no fees for the bidding on this. And one of the other things that was, of course, important is I did check with Mr. Sultanic, and I learned something new, is that Mr. Sultanic is also the solicitor for Lancaster Lebanon IU. So this program has already been reviewed by someone in his office to confirm that it does comply with procurement laws. So we are recommending, and this is a relatively time-sensitive issue. We do have to be able to sign the participation agreement before the end of the fiscal year. So we did want to give you information about that, and then place that also on tonight's voting meeting. And also then in January, that is when the food service directors have the opportunity to have their input into the items that are on the bid list. If there's something that's not on there or they don't like the specifications, January is the time frame where they are able to have input to the bid list. So we are presenting that. I do apologize for the short time limit, but we did feel that it was very important to get this moving as quickly as we could.
And so if we do move this forward, it will be on the consent agenda as well tonight. Okay. Any questions? Foos?
Just a comment. I just wanted to thank you for including the timeline in our weekly update, because I know that this was, you had relatively short notice, and I appreciate you just kind of circling us, keeping us in the loop on that so we understand why this came up in the way that it did.
Is this going to be an approval that isn't going to be required every year? Every year?
We do have to sign the participation agreement annually, so yes, I would think that would be something we would put on every year.
Okay. Also, it would have been nice to have seen some of the others that, we could have had options with to compare. But another question I have is this going to change the price of the student lunches at all?
No, it will not.
Okay, and on that subject, back in September, I believe it was, I sent Dr. Bedden an email, and I never heard back, about the unused cafeteria food, about making take-home meals for the kids that are on the fixed lunch income things. I never received word back. There's something that's out there that there's other districts that are doing, and I didn't know if that's something we offered or could offer, rather than just throwing food out. Maybe we could make up meals for the kids also.
I think that would probably, well, I don't know, Dr. Bedden, if you have any additional information on that. You do not?
I have
Okay.
back. One is you didn't get any other choices. There were only 3, and the other ones I understood had fees to them. So what you got presented was the one that was the most cost-effective option that also was already vetted. So that's why you didn't see any other ones. We weren't recommending any of those other ones. It's a process that is a recommendation from administration, and to present you something that we weren't recommending and it actually cost us more money was why we did not show you the other 2 options, to answer your first question. Secondly, with the number of vacancies that we've had and the other projects that we were doing, we didn't have the capacity to take on another project and a turnover in that office to look at it. Food service is a part of the business office function, and as you know, she spent most of her time focusing on trying to get acclimated, then to backfill her spot. So it was not a high priority to look into that project at the time because we were understaffed, and we're still understaffed in food service.
But it would have been nice for you to acknowledge the email. You never even acknowledged the email.
Okay, duly noted. And I would say to you, Ms. Nyman, you're absolutely right, and I would ask that you do the same for me, because you say things that go both ways, But I do apologize to you. I missed that email and forgotten about it, so it was not intentional. But I will go on record as asking you to do the same when I communicate with you and I don't get a response. Okay? Thank you.
Ms. Tim?
Mr. Bruce?
Just one comment on that. Like, I agree that, I don't disagree with your choice. It sounds like it was the best choice of the three, and I hardly agree with that. However, I still would like to have seen the other two just for reference and future reference. Not that I'm challenging your selection. I think it's the right one, but it would be nice in my packet to actually see the other two and be able to look at them. That's all. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr.
At first, I'd encourage my colleagues. These are probably questions that could be asked in advance. That I think they're reasonable questions, but certainly we've had an opportunity to pose these to administration. I think some of them would be worthwhile. I also share the interest in considering ways that with the food lunch, I know it's been brought up about maybe partnering with the foundation on the debt, student lunch debt and things of that nature. And also, I saw something as well about discarded lunches being saved as frozen meals and things like that. That might be a good committee topic in the future that I think we should consider and keep kind of in the back of our minds.
Okay. Any other comments or suggestions? Okay. Is there anybody who is opposed to moving this to the consent agenda for this evening? No? All right, great. Okay. So we'll have that as well. Is there any committee comments at this time? No committee comments? Upcoming meeting date, well, in 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, we will have our next committee meeting, which is going to start at 7, and we will wait till 7 o'clock to make sure that everybody is here. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Foose? Mr. Brophy seconds? Okay, we're adjourned.